Welcome to another Kings of War Battle Report. Orcs versus Salamanders. 2,300 points. The scenario was kill. Well, this is my version of the Orc Masters list. It's only different in one way, so there's no mystery here. I'll just read it to you. 3 regiments of Morax, all with the skull poles. 1 horde of axe with sharpness and a skull pole. 2 hordes of great axe with skull poles. 6 units of Orclings, a war drum, a Crudger with Gakamax banner, skull pole, and the Sacred Horn. A Crudger with skull pole, a Crudger by itself, 3 Crushers on Gores, 1 with slashing, 1 with crushing, and 1 with the staying stone. And that completes the army. Total the army is 2,300 points, and I believe it has 19 drops. So pretty decent amount of drops, and 28 unit strength, also a pretty decent amount. And so this list is won the Masters, so it's got to be good, or one darn close to it did. So I'm excited to get to play it. When Craig called me today to play 2,300 points, I thought, well, here it goes. Now, some of the units that you see on the table are not my armies, the ones that are going in my tournament army later in the year, but they are painted, and so that looks a little better. Really, the only thing I don't have painted are all of the Orclings, and they are all old GW Snotlings, except for 1 unit right now, which is some old GW Nurglings, because I really don't have 6 units of Orclings, so I'm having to substitute something right now. But in my 2,000 point army, I only have 5, and I have plenty of Snotlings / Orclings for that endeavor. Okay, since we were just doing some army testing today, we just decided to play kill. We were kind of messing around with scenarios, and Greg said, hey, let's just play because you're in a hurry, and because I had to go pick up my grandson, and he's right. So it was just easier to go ahead and play kill. Just to give you an idea of the river has 10 crossings in it, so it's really easy to get across. If your leader point goes through the ford, you are considered to not be hindered. If you go through the river, obviously you are hindered. And we did decide if you charged and your unit ended up in the river, you're still hindered. So it kind of works. So the narrow units can really get through those fords, but the wider ones, like my big hordes of orcs, no way. They were going to get through there without being hindered. So I think that was fair. I mean, I liked the river. It was cool. I mean, it's amazing. Craig printed all of that, and it just looks great on the table. And so really happy with the terrain. It's just something totally different than what I'm used to playing on. So kudos to Craig for a really nice looking table. So let's do some deployment. I just started setting up kind of blind, and then Craig started loading his left flank there. And so I really didn't have much choice of what to do back. Because I checkerboarded. If you'll see, I've got 4 units of Orclings in a row, and there's 3 Morax regiments there that I set out. And then, like I said, Craig started dropping, so he had 3 units of Tyrants here. So instead of just spreading out another one, I went ahead and just stuck one of my Great Axe hordes behind all of that stuff because I wasn't going to get to him otherwise. So if he happened to break through the front line, I mean, he has to break through the Orclings, the Morax, all the characters till he gets to the Axe horde or Great Axe horde. But you know, that Great Axe horde, by the time you beat through that thing, all it's going to do is touch you to kill you. So that was kind of the thought here. Down at the right-hand side, I had 2 of my Crushers. One of them was Staying Stone, and the other one was Slashing. Of course, then a Morax. And one of my generals, which is the one I call Big Axe, and he is sitting there because he is the one that has Gakamax banner, and is going to give those all those Morax some extra wild charge ability. And then over at the very end of the Morax, there's another general there, another Crudger, and he's just the guy that had nothing extra on him. And finally, on the very end, I had a whole nother Great Axe horde, and the Axe horde with the Brew of Sharpness out there on the end. And of course, there's 2 more units of Orclings with them, but they really didn't have any competition to fight. So the whole battle was going to be down here on this right-hand side. So if you know me, I'm pretty good at tunnel fighting, which is exactly what we're going to do, which is fighting straight ahead without really any maneuver. And Orcs are one of the better tunnel fighting armies, so that's always a good thing. So across the table was the Salamander hordes, and here they came. They were led off, but they have 3 units of tyrants, which are just, as everybody knows, are wicked mean guys. And so I'm going to have to do something about them. So on the very end here, it has 1 unit of tyrants, and then Lechilodon. I guess it was a hero on a mounted hero there, just kind of like my mounted heroes, just a guy by himself. A little troop of geckos of some sort. I can't. Some of them shoot. Some of them he had like a mixture of shooting ones and the mixture of just melee ones. So that was that guy, and then yet another unit of tyrants. Behind them were the oh my gosh, what are they called? They're Armor 6 guys that have Inspire. I'll think Ancients that were behind them. And then in the very middle there, we had yet the last unit of tyrants, along with a Lechilodon and yet another mounted hero. Over on the far end was a mounted hero and a entire horde of geckos with measured force. And then lastly, another troop of geckos on the far end of the table. All right, so I had the first turn and it's kill. And I thought it was a good idea to go ahead and take that turn and try to rush those forwards, at least to keep, so that what we did is if you fought in the water and your base was hanging into the other water, the non-forward water, then you were hindered. So I was hoping to stick those units in the water, but I don't think Craig was going to let me just, do that. So anyway, I moved everything forward. You can see my checkerboards are forming here. Only mistake I made is that last Morax unit on the left. I went ahead and angled it to get around there to that other spot. Ended up jamming it, get jammed in the way because if I would have just went straight, I would have been fine. But turning was not the right move here. So yeah, that was on my turn. As you can see, he moves everything up to the edge of the river. It looks pretty intimidating with those 3 hordes of tyrants over there. So, going to have to figure out a cool plan, a cool something to do, and in my turn. But his shooting opens up. He had, I don't know, it really wasn't a lot of shooting, but I think he had several units of geckos that shot, and he got 2 of my units. I think they had 2 each. They were fine, and maybe the one in the middle took 5 and was wavered. I think that was probably what happened to it. They got shot by a bunch of stuff, a bunch of different things. Everything else over here moved as fast as it could. That woods was really going to slow me down. In my 2,000 point list, that Great Axe Horde would have had Pathfinder. It would have come zipping right through that stuff. But in the 3,000, it's exactly like the Masters list, so that they don't have a Caterpillar on that unit of Great Axe. So this time I was slogging through the river and slogging through the woods. Well, as a usual Randy and Craig game, on the second turn we are already fighting. That's just the way we play. And without very much shooting, I had no reason to hang back. So I just started moving forward. Here on the very right, the Morax unit charged down the hill. Then I had to hit the water. When I hit the water, of course, then I lost my thunderous charge. So, and I was hindered. But I hit the Tyrant unit several times, and I popped my Orcish Skull Pole to give myself brutal for this turn. And I rolled really well. I think I rolled a 10 on the break test. I did 9 wounds to him, and then turned right around and rolled 9 and busted that. I did a 1-shot on that unit. That was just silly crazy. One of my other crushers, he went ahead and charged into the Lechilodon and did manage to disorder it. A unit of my Orclings charged into his one of his units of geckos, and I believe that I wavered them. I mean, their morale is fairly low. The next unit just moved up to prevent the big unit of tyrants from charging into them. And over in the middle, this was something that I learned the other day from Erich, and what it did was just turn that wavered unit of Orclings 90 degrees to the left, and that would let me move my unit of Morax through it. But the Morax really wasn't the important part. What I did was it would allow one of my crushers to go ahead and charge into his unit of tyrants and keep them from moving across the river next turn. Everything else just moved up online, worked out. But I mean, the big thing this turn was having wavered 2 units and killing that unit of tyrants. And now, you know, he has no reserve here on his far left flank, and so now that Morax unit is starting to come into play. And you can see the Axe Horde is also moved up, and that's never good for anybody when Axe Hordes are around. So I'm pretty sure this is his turn for reprisal. So the everything else over there, the Keylatan being was not wavered. Yes, it was. I think it was wavered, as a matter of fact. So now he really couldn't do anything, but it was really jamming up his army. So he went ahead, and to do the same thing to me that I was doing to his tyrants, he went ahead and charged one of his mounted heroes into my Morax unit. And he also charged the one of the units of geckos into the flank of that unit that I turned 90 degrees. And I want to thank him here because it really clears them out of my way so I could do other stuff, because they were just totally blocking that unit up because I'd screwed up angling it, you know, in the turn before. That's what I was saying. I've got to be really careful about doing that and stuff passing through that way. So it turned, I mean, this went really well for me. I think he did like 1 wound to the Morax unit, which of course is not anything. He did kill the unit of Orclings this turn. Over on the tyrant front, he just absolutely waylaid that poor Orc Crusher, Crusher. But guess what? The most hated rule in the damn game. Snake Eyes comes up, and now he is screwed right there with that unit, because now he can't bring them in to do anything to me. And so now that unit, like I said, is in big trouble. Not because I'm going to kill it, but just because it can't move and support the rest of his line. We finally did have some action on this side of the table. 2 of his Gecko units charged into 2 of my Orcling units. They can't really hurt each other. That's a true slap fight. The biggest problem I'm having right now is that I've blocked my big Axe Horde, my great Axe Horde here, up pretty good. And his other unit, I had a unit of geckos charge in the middle and charge into that unit of stupid Orclings. And I really couldn't figure out how to get out of that one either. And so it's going to be a while before I can either hack through these guys and then see what I can do to open the game up a little bit here on this flank. Okay, after getting through his turn, over here on the extreme right, what I did was I disengaged my Crusher and moved him over so he could see the Phoenix in the middle there, and then that allowed the Morax unit to charge into the Keylatan. Next to them, the other unit of Orclings just countercharged back into that unit of Gecko Warriors, and then the next unit of Orclings just went ahead and charged into the Tyrant unit to pin it in place. As you can see, the Great Axe unit is menacingly moving down, ready to get into the fight. So nobody wants to be on the receiving end of a horde of Great Axe. They are just one of the nastiest units in the game. Over in the middle, we slap fought again. Even my hero rolled like 1 or 2 wounds on those stupid geckos, and now I'm still stuck over there. On the extreme left, the big horde of Axe went ahead and charged and killed the first unit of geckos, and so now that now I've got a little bit of a clear movement path over there. In the very middle, the Crusher, who was devastated, he got 1 swing, but I think I had Sword of Slashing or Mace of Crushing, something on it. I rolled to hit and I rolled to wound, so now that kept him from charging me again because he's disordered, and that ain't going to be good. Like I said, he could have got through. He would have probably been fine, but I had a lot of stuff there that could have handled one horde of tyrants by itself. So I'm trying to do the best here just to kind of isolate everything, and instead of letting them getting double charges on me, because it seems like every time that happens, I get in trouble. Over in his turn, his legion of geckos charged into my big horde of Axe, and kind of funny because they had measured force, and the only unit that actually would work against was that unit. So I told him, I said, you don't want to charge the Orclings because their armor gets better if you charge them. So anyway, so then his hero went ahead and charged into that little Orcling unit right there, and I think did a couple of wounds, but I don't really recall. But he didn't really do a whole lot of damage with the Legion against that other unit there. So in this turn, he suicide charged his Lachilodon into the Morax regiment there in the foreground. And I think he did 1 or 2 wounds. It wasn't a big deal. And then the Tyrants, of course, killed the Orclings in front of it. And then the unit of Geckos killed the unit of Orclings in front of it. And so they kind of cleared out all the chaff things now. But it's going to be I'll have a big charge next turn because the same thing applies. When my chaff dies, it's also out of my way, so that'll let me do a lot of damage this turn. So I love it when a plan comes together. So I had a Crusher fighting that unit of Geckos, and I just disengaged and moved it totally out of the way. That allowed the Great Axe Horde to charge in on that unit and, of course, annihilate it. The big charge I had this turn, and it was kind of one that I was I didn't know how it would go because of everything being hindered. But what I did was I charged my Morax unit into his Tyrants, who had just killed the Geckos, but this time I charged 2 Crushers in with them, so that gave me an extra 10 swings that hit on 3s and wound on anything but of course they're hindered as well. So I mean they're going to hit on 4s, but I think those extra swings are going to make a huge difference. And down here on here's I went ahead and countercharged the Lachilodon, and then I charged the other Crudger into the Lachilodon to kill it, because I'm going to try to overrun with that Crudger and stop that unit of Tyrants up again. I've had them stop the whole game, and so I was just one more turn of it. Finally, I got, with everything out of the way, I got my Orclings and that big horde of Axe into that last little unit of Geckos there, and of course those guys were just blown off the table. So this is the aftermath of all the fighting. You could see that the Morax went ahead and killed the Lachilodon. Now they're just staring at the Ancients. And so now I got that Axe Horde coming up, and a hero there. 2 of my Crudgers had moved forward to stop the Ancients from doing anything, because they have Mighty, so he has to charge them. That means that the Morax are going to get into him on the next turn. It'll be bad. Over on the far back, the Lucky Crusher, he went ahead and charged and did 1 or 2 wounds to the Phoenix and grounded him. And like I said, the Morax unit and the General went ahead and charged. I rolled a 6-inch overrun, and so now they're stuck right in the middle of the fort, and that guy has Mighty. So even if he kills him, he would have to kill him and then roll like a 6, I think, to overrun into the excuse me, the Morax, and that wasn't going to be good. And even if he did, he's going to catch it in the flank from the other Morax unit. So this is in a bad spot to be. Over on this flank, the countercharge from the Axe unit with a Brew of Sharpness just does amazing damage, like 18 or some huge number, because the Geckos don't have any armor, and I have Crushing 1, so everything that hits basically is a wound. And that was good. His hero did manage to waver my Orclings there, but he was going to catch it from that horde at some point, and so they weren't going to be in good shape either. So not looking good for the Salamanders at this point, because that horde, that legion of Geckos won't survive the turn, and I doubt they could do enough damage to even seriously threaten that big unit of Axe. Sometimes you have those games where you just win or lose because of dice. And in this case, his bad dice and my good dice, it was just, I was making the right moves regardless, but him getting stuck with that unit of Tyrants in that ford over there, because he rolled Snake Eyes, that was the worst thing, because it disjointed his entire line. And then my one-shotting his Tyrants on turn 2 was just a fluke of my luck. And so not sure what else you could do. Like I said, sometimes when the dice are just blowing up in your face, that it ain't a good thing to happen. But this army is very, very strong, and you can see what its power, what it can do. the one thing you learn is there's a reason why this list has done so well in tournaments, and I can see why. For one thing, it is the perfect balance. Every unit has a chaff unit assigned to it. Every unit has a hero assigned to it. So that allows you to funnel people into the charges that you want them to make, and also lets you set up these avenues for charges so that you're getting these nice one-on-one attacks, instead of them jumping on you. And so that's why this particular list works so well. And I was really happy because Erich had taken time out of his day and sent me some pictures of how to deploy and just some of the hints to use with it. And right off the bat, you saw some of the tactics that he'd given me, such as trying to figure out how to rotate the Orclings out of the way so that I could make some other charges and so they wouldn't jam at my army. And to that end, I did make that one mistake where I angled. I shouldn't have done. I should have just kept going straight ahead. But I mean, it wasn't that crucial of a mistake, but it did delay the movement of my big horde because of not just kind of following the plan, so to speak. One of the things that happened in this game was when Craig started loading up that left flank, or his left, my right, I was sitting there, I was getting ready to spread out again. And so what I finally did was just drop that great axe horde into the corner down here. And just so that I would have another big unit. I mean, I figured that by the time he could get through the Orclings, the Morax, all those heroes, that axe horde is going to just be beaten on really spent units. And there's no way that spent units can stand up to an axe horde. It's just, it doesn't matter what race you are, they will kill you. And so I thought that was a pretty masterful move, because if I would have stuck them on the other flank, they wouldn't have done anything the whole game. I would have just basically been punting him points. So I was pretty happy with that little change up, and it makes the checkerboard look cool too. I mean, I could have probably moved the unit that unit that's of axe that are over there in La La Land. I could have moved them in behind these two units of Morax that are right in the middle of my line, and did it that way as well. Because his army is just set up so much more narrow, and I really wasn't worried speed-wise that he could get around me. That's not true of every game. Every game, sometimes if they got a lot of flyers and stuff like that, you can't do stuff like I was talking about doing. But you could actually in some ways, because there wouldn't be no place to land with those big-ass orc units blocking up so much at the table. And so, anyway, I was really happy with Erich taking time out to help me with the army. The 2,000 point list looks almost identical to it. I lose one Morax unit, one Crudger, and one of the Orclings. That's why you see that I've got to get the Orclings painted up, because these aren't the models I'm using. These are just other orcs I've had painted. I've painted orcs since the 90s, so I have different iterations of everything. As you can see, those are the old black orcs at the bottom. They're the plastic monopose ones. And now I have the newer all-metal looking ones, that are full armored. And that's what's going to be my black orc units. And I do have one of those units on the table. It's not fully painted. It's kind of started painted, I should say. They're out there and they look kind of dark. But the last thing I really got to do is figure out a basing scheme. It's some other color that kind of lets that green pop a little bit. So anyway, I got a bunch of figures to paint up and everything, and we'll just have to see, when I get motivated to do it. But the black orcs I should just knock out, because they're not going to be that hard. They're mostly metal, so and metal and dark green. How much harder could it be? So I should start working on them. But I think the snotlings are actually going to be the first thing I do, because they obviously look not painted. They actually have a color on them, but since the bases are white, they look really crappy in the pictures. So everything for me is about looking good in the pictures. So even if they're just one color had been based, they would have looked fine from this distance anyway. So anyhow, well, thank you, Craig, for the game. I'm sorry about the bad luck that you had this game. Not sure what you could have done really any different, but the terrain did make a difference this game with the river, causing some stuff like that. But it was fair. I mean, look at the table is pretty much balanced on both sides, so it didn't really matter who got where. But I did have the advantage, I feel, of moving first and kind to keep you from allowing him to push across the river and kind of dictate the attack a little bit more. And then I got lucky with some dice, and then it just started rolling from there. So looking forward to trying it again to see what we can do for a rematch. And I really want to jump down to 2,000 points and see how my army plays at that level before I take it to a tournament.